Lionsgate present The Cast of Cthulhu, a real-time Call of Cthulhu roleplay adventure with me, Jimmy the Pint.
Listeners, and welcome to the premiere episode of Cast of Cthulhu. My name is Jimmy, otherwise known as Jimmy the Pint, and I shall be your games master for this evening. And sat around the table, all stuffed and full of pizza, are my investigators. Say hello, investigators.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, so Call of Cthulhu. Now, there may be some of you out there who have just been, your interest has been piqued by Cthulhu, and you may have seen there is a computer game that's coming out, you may have seen cuddly little tentacled things flying around on the internet, or you may be a seasoned Call of Cthulhu player. But what we'd like to do is we would like to kind of share the world of Cthulhu with everybody and try and make it as accessible to everyone. So we have decided to get a variety of players together, some who have no knowledge of Cthulhu whatsoever. Make a noise if that's you. And some of us who may have read Cthulhu. Make a noise.
Oi.
And some of us who may have sacrificed our children to Cthulhu. Alright, well, I suppose introductions are in order from our players. Who wants to go first? Ladies first, okay.
Okay.
So let's start with the delectable Yasmin Ferguson.
May I ask, am I introducing myself or my character?
You're just introducing yourself. How are you feeling about playing Cthulhu so far?
So far, I find Cthulhu frustrating.
Excellent.
Exciting.
Okay.
And it's a bit of a brain twister. Yes.
Now, you're our Cthulhu virgin, aren't you?
I am a virgin.
So if this all goes wrong...
You tried reading a bit of Lovecraft, didn't you? But you had a bad experience with it.
Me and Lovecraft didn't get on.
No.
In what way?
You thought it was a...
I think that he was writing overly complex writing to only appeal to a very small sector of the British public at the time.
The British public? Interesting, because he's American.
Is he American?
He's American.
Oh, well, there you go. That shows how much I know Lovecraft. I found that the language of his writing overly complex. I like to, when I read a story, to be able to follow what I'm reading. Lovecraft is a very interesting writer. I'll say that for him. The wording and the language he uses is unusual, and you probably have to use a dictionary sometimes to actually understand some of the words.
Okay.
But for me, not to my taste. However, the actual game Call of Cthulhu I have been very much enjoying.
It's interesting that you said that. What story did you start with, or what stories have you read?
I only read Call of Cthulhu.
So...
And I
did 3 or 4 and she got through that one and she was like, nope.
I did say to Rob, if I read any more, I'd probably set fire to his Necronomicon.
You know what would happen if you...
Yeah.
Don't ever do that.
In fact, don't even open it, but we'll get onto that. Right, for those of you that don't know, the game that we have started, and we'll give you a recap very, very soon, is Horror on the Orient Express, which is possibly Chaosium's greatest achievement. The one game that everybody should play, or wants to play, or has really, really gotten something out of playing. And as a GM, as a first-time GM, I've dabbled in running games before, but playing a campaign of this magnitude is pretty scary. But so far, so good. It's going well. For those of you that don't know, this is classic Cthulhu, so it is set in the 1920s. Rob, how have you found adapting to the 1920s? So I should introduce, this is Rob. And Rob, you know a little bit about Cthulhu, don't you?
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, I've read most of them, I think.
Okay, and what do you think? How do you find, like, sort of entering that kind of 1920s world?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying it so far. I'm kind of new to like role-playing games in general, but No, it's been good fun so far. I like the fact that we've always got alcohol here.
Yeah, alcohol and pizza do feature quite heavily in our little evenings.
Yeah, no, it's something to do, isn't it? Yeah.
A man of few words, but when he speaks, you better listen.
Choice words from you normally, isn't it?
Next around the table is Marcus.
Oi, oi, Savoy.
Marcus.
Yeah.
So you are quite a heavy duty role player, aren't you?
Very much so.
Much tabletop experience?
A lot of tabletop. Started out with 3rd or 2nd edition D&D, done Pathfinder, all that kind of business.
Okay, and how would you compare... Because have you played Cthulhu before?
I've played sort of once before, but it wasn't this campaign.
Okay. Was it the Chaosium system?
I'm not entirely sure. This was about 5-6 years ago.
Okay. So how if you were to kind of let's take the classic then, let's take D&D and Cthulhu, how would you say the two are different? You know, I'm not going to say which do you prefer because it's like choosing between your children.
I'd say Call of Cthulhu is a lot more in depth and intricate with basically everything, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, D&D is pretty good because you've got the broad spectrum of things, but when it comes to the actual roleplay that can happen, a lot of it in Call of Cthulhu is what you might call immersive a lot more.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's part of the appeal for me as well. Is that Cthulhu, you know, despite having the dice and the character sheets, it relies a lot more on your own decisions and your own actions.
Yeah.
It's very much a collaborative storytelling project, isn't it? Rather than D&D, which, you know, you've got stats for everything, and you know, and I think the rules are slightly more rigid in a game like Dungeons and Dragons than they are in Call of Cthulhu. And that's one thing I do want to get onto. As I said, I'm fairly new to GMing. We're currently playing 7th edition. I think my first time playing 7th edition. I've been a 5th edition monkey for a long time, and so far I've been enjoying it. Some of you might be familiar with the changes. There's not a huge amount, but there are some significant changes. What I will say to those of you listening who, you know, might be rules lawyers is we are playing house rules. So there will come times when you hear things that I do or that I allow my players to do that you won't agree with. And to those of you out there thinking he's not done that right, tough shit, this is our game. But we hope you enjoy how we play it. Okay, we just need to hear very, very quickly from...
I just wanted to put in a little excerpt. Marcus here is our only lactose intolerant. Gave in to the irresistible lure of pizza tonight.
Yeah, so you might die halfway through that.
He might die.
Yeah,
he
so
might
he
give
may
birth to
die.
some kind of tentacle monster.
Cthulhu may not have to take him.
If you hear vomiting sounds, then you know what it is. Right, let's hear from our next player, who is Tobias Kruger. Oh yeah, that's right. Tobias isn't here at the moment. Sadly, Tobias is at work. But if somewhere through this podcast you hear us all cheer, then you know that Tobias has arrived. And I'll let him introduce himself once he gets here, looking all tired and covered in poop. Okay, so our final player for this evening is Lorna. Lorna, the lady of few words. And again, you haven't played too much Cthulhu, have you?
I haven't played any Cthulhu. I haven't played nothing, mate.
Nothing. Not a sausage.
Nah.
Okay, and how are you finding it so far?
I'm enjoying it. Apparently I'm going to be scared at some point. I doubt it. But
she is our resident badass.
yeah.
For those of you that don't know, which is pretty much everybody, we actually all know each other through my company called Chaos Gate, who are a LARPing company.
Hey,
when I say my company, I'm
Jimmy's company that he owns and created.
I'm a co-founder. Love you boys. If you're listening, I love you. Big shout out to Martin Bray, Ricky Barker and John Stodden, who co-founded
We'll
Chaos
all receive
Gate.
5% profits compared to Jimmy's.
Yeah, we all met through Chaos Gate. These guys were our very, very first players, and they quite regularly stand out in fields, dressed as a variety of characters, hitting each other with rubber swords. So as you can see, we are extreme geeks. We live and breathe geek culture, pop culture, and yeah, we are the kids that used to get beat up at school.
By Lorna.
Yeah. Lorna, on the other hand, she's actually the Chaos Gate Queen at the moment. She's a cannibal, and quite occasionally.
What do you mean at the moment?
Well, for now, anything can happen. But you may notice that as she plays through the game over the next few weeks, months, years, however long this campaign takes, every now and again she might get a bit gravelly and a bit sinister and hiss. That's not actually Lorna, that's Queen Vile, head cannibal of Clan Black. She finds it difficult to differentiate between the two. Another thing we should warn you about is Tobias is in fact Lorna's husband?
Isn't it?
Partner?
Is it fellow
human.
It's my fellow.
He's a cohabiter.
Domestic assistant.
And you may have a partner or a husband or a wife yourself, and you may bicker and you may argue. You ain't got nothing on these guys. They literally fight each other. They beat each other up. So if you hear lots of smacking and distortion from the mic, it's just Lorna and Tobias having a fight.
Yeah,
Please don't worry about it. They're
fine.
fully trained, and we've got all the necessary numbers that we need
It's
to call.
pretty much consensual.
It is
And
consensual.
Lorna is much bigger and stronger than Tobias.
All right, don't want this to go on for too long because we've actually got some gaming to do for you to listen to later. But let's just have a quick roundup of our characters. So going the other way and starting with Lorna again, who is Vile? Who is your character?
My character is Felicity Warren. She's a 40-year-old librarian who likes to do lots of drugs. She's a bit angry.
A bit angry.
She's lovely. She's very charming, I'm sure.
And what's her relationship with the other investigators?
Oh well, Edward is her significant other on the train. Marcus is Edward, and the others, she's just been thrown together with them.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Felicity. That brings us nicely on to Edward.
Yeah, Edward Cartwright, age 27, served in World War One in the Battle of the Somme. He's now a Scotland Yard detective. I keep changing the birthplace each week because I'm not entirely sure what accent to do with him.
We've had some amazing accents so far, so do look forward to hearing some of those, and they will change from minute to minute, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, each interaction will be different.
We love them all.
I'm interested to see what today's accent will be.
Well, what was it last week? Sean Connery?
It was Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. It was an attempt.
It went from Sean Connery to Birmingham.
Sean Connery by way of
Sean
Apu
Connery.
from The Simpsons.
Yeah, it could be anything.
And then it went to a Brummie accent.
Yeah, tonight could be anything from Manchester to Ugandan or South African, so...
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
And if you were to sum up Edward in one particular character, in one sentence, what would that be?
Conflicted between where his priorities lie.
Okay, and where do his priorities lie?
Well, his priorities obviously to law and, kind of justice and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, he is, kind of with someone who just does hardcore drugs and, he's in a group with known criminals. So.
I should point out we have no idea what these drugs are. They're just
They're all wonderful.
I take some drugs.
Edward knows what some of them are because he gets them from the evidence locker and gives them to her.
Yeah.
So,
What is this madness?
Mix them all up in the bottom of my bag and
Exactly.
just take a bit out here and there.
So I think it's a case of he went through the war, he's not sure what's happening anymore, he's just not used to it.
All right, moving on.
Okay, so I play Napoleon Cray, or Nappy to my friends. Not that I've got any. And Napoleon is a sort of East End. My idea was he's a kind of confidence trickster, pickpocket sort of character. Former member of the Clubfoot Pigeon Gang, which I just came up with, thought it sounded cool. Yeah, and he's just like a kind of shifty sort of Cockney gangster sort of character. Yeah, that's Napoleon.
He's a bit short on cash.
A little bit, very short on cash, yeah.
And last but by no means least, we have...
Eva Stone. So, Eva Stone is 29, born in Brighton, educated in the University of London to be a physician, She was trained in her last years by the man who then became her husband. And unfortunately, during a routine procedure where she was actually operating on him, which in those days they didn't mind,
Knob ectomy.
he died under her hands, and she lost her license and is now a medical examiner. Kind of doesn't really care about much. She idolised her husband. She didn't mean to kill him, but it happened. She was brought up by a Norwegian father, so she worships the Norse gods. Yeah. And she has a few things. She's afraid of flutes.
Oh yeah, we had to roll up for strange phobias.
Orlophobia, because her father used to beat her with a flute, so she could. She developed a fear.
Do you know,
of flutes.
strangely enough, my daughter was given a flute last week. I was like, and actually, it was when I got home from gaming. I was like, oh yeah, Lily's been given this flute. Sorry, you didn't see that, but I gave a very strange look.
Anyway, she's a plain woman, but is known to be a bit of a seductress. She has a husky voice.
Husky! Hello, I love you!
She loves using her derringer at every opportunity.
She just likes shooting people in the face.
Basically, she likes shooting people in the face. And she has a Bentley.
She does.
Damn you!
That's like their mystery machine.
In your face, Felicity.
So you can see tensions are mounting already.
So
Okay.
doctor then.
What we better do, guys, is we better get you up to speed. We are currently 2 weeks into the game. The podcast idea kind of came from nowhere, really. Plus, we didn't have the equipment then. So you may notice, like, you know, this being the first kind of recording, that we are all a little bit nervous and a little bit jittery. But we shall do our best to keep our cool and make sure that this is hopefully as entertaining as possible. Although, you know, H.P. Lovecraft, Call of Cthulhu, people play it in many different ways, and I think the one thing we've all agreed on is we want to have a good time with it, and if that means we're having fun and having a bit of a laugh over even the most terrifying of incidents, then so be it. And if that's not your bag, then maybe the podcast isn't for you. But
Yeah, fuck off.
But, you know, we are doing this out of the goodness of our hearts, and that is all. We won't be asking you for any money or any donations or anything like all that jazz that many of the podcasters do. Although, if anybody wants to send us free shit, Chaosium, I'm looking at you, please feel free to do so. We like freebies. It makes us feel like celebrities.
I'd really like a Cthulhu teddy.
A cuddly Cthulhu. Amazing. I'd really like...
Cthulhu condoms.
Do they have
probably a thing.
multiple like tentacly things?
They're like barbecue rib flavour. Okay,
Surely
alright.
fish flavour.
All right. Yeah, nice.
You know what they do, don't you?
Calamari.
Deep one.
They always drive the women crazy.
Yeah. Another word of warning you may find from time to time. Choice words do happen. So if you are under 12,
Fuck
please-
off.
Yeah. Fuck off.
I didn't swear till I was 16.
Oh, shut up. Right. Okay.
I haven't farted since I was
so
13.
without further ado, let's have a little recap.
Sorry, I'm starting to get a bit drunk now.
Yeah, mine's running out.
It is 1923. Our investigators have been called by their friend Professor Julius Smith to a lecture. It's a lecture dinner held in his honour. He is the guest speaker, and he has revealed in his investigations that he is deeply, deeply fascinated by hauntings and strange phenomena, which he now believes to be true. This is particularly interesting because he's known in most circles as a debunker of these kind of things, but he thinks he's come across evidence, and he wants to hire the services of our investigators to perhaps look into them some more. Now, unfortunately, prior to the investigators meeting with Professor Smith after the lecture, our poor professor goes missing, and it later transpires that he has been badly burnt in a house fire. He managed to escape with the help of his trusty manservant Beddoes.
Beardsley.
It's not Beardsley. Rob thinks Beddoes is called Beardsley, and we humour him. He's now, and between them, Beddoes and Smith have revealed to the players that it's Smith's dying wish for us to try and locate a mysterious and magical artifact known as
This Sifil comes.
No, wait, give me a second.
Salunkarum.
I've written this down.
Oh, Sedefkar Simulacrum.
Thank you.
Defcar.
Did I get it?
Sedefkar
is it
Simulacrum.
Sedefkar?
Simulacrum.
Simulacrum.
I put Defcar.
Which
The
is
I'll
a
change that to Sidefcar.
powerful occult object. It's a statue, and all they know is that it has been broken up and scattered across Europe. Now, it was Smith's intention for himself to go all over Europe hunting for the simulacrum and the Sedefkar scrolls, which give information on how to destroy the statue. And that ultimately was his quest. He wanted to find all the pieces, put it back together, and then destroy it. And he's now charged the investigators with this same quest. He's given them a shitload of cash, and they're due to head off very, very soon.
Didn't give me any cash.
Give it to me.
Yeah, but in the
You're a
meanwhile-
criminal.
In the meanwhile, they've headed off back to their hotel, and a few interesting occurrences have happened. So, Yasmin, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
What we rolling?
Right.
It's alright, I'll do it. If I can find my D8.
Yes.
There we go. And it's 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that'd be Marcus. If you could just recap the
From my notes.
the current investigation.
The current investigation, from which point, just after we set out from the hotel.
So you got a newspaper.
Yeah, I wasn't here this week for that.
Oh yeah, Marcus wasn't there. The starting point was a newspaper that informed the players of
I
a
got
person dying 3 times in one night, who goes by the name of
Mr. Macriat.
Mr. Macriat, Mehmet Macriat.
Mehmet Macriat.
But before they had the chance to investigate Mr. Macriat, they came across a connection with another disappearance, which was Rob.
Henry Stanley?
Henry Stanley, that's right. And can you just fill us in what happened there?
Okay, so alright, we went to the library, we found out it's something to do with a train set. Me and Felicity got back to the hotel. I was slipped a note by the porter at the hotel that told me to meet. It was from the professor, Julius Smith. It said to meet him at a certain place. So me and Felicity hopped in a taxi, went to meet him. He was all burnt up. And that's when he told us about the Sedefkar, Simulacrum, that thing. And then we found Arthur Butters, that was the guy's name. He gave us the toy train set that was connected to the 3 deaths. We set it up, turned it on, and we were teleported into a ghost train dimension. Ghost train dimension, does that make sense? Sorry, I'm a bit drunk.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. There are like other minor details as well, but basically what's happened is they've investigated this disappearance, and they've somehow summoned this huge apparition of a train. Nappy has ended up being dragged on by ghost-like passengers, and our other investigators have decided to pursue, and that's where we left it last week. So we shan't ramble on for any more. As our podcast progress, it will be more about the game and less about these guys waffling on. Occasionally we will go off on tangents, and you know, if we do, then so be it. Sometimes there'll be lots of action, sometimes we may just waffle on, but we hope you stick around and enjoy the cast of Cthulhu. Woo!